Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining Footlogix and me for our presentation this month. We're going to talk about diabetes. I'm very like to thank Footlogix for asking me to do this. Diabetes is something that I have explored and been known to talk about many times within my foot care career. And I'm so excited that you all joined me today. So we're going to talk about meeting the challenges of diabetic foot care. So it is National Diabetes Month here in the US and Canada. We're going to talk a little bit about how the National Diabetic and the Kidney Foundation use this month to promote and make awareness of diabetes and the problems that diabetes develops. We're going to talk about a little bit about diabetes, and it's a chronic disease. We're going to talk about global statistics today. Global statistics blow my mind just as well as the American statistics, and how diabetes directly impacts our skin and our nails. And we as pedicurists, nail technicians, need to be aware of some of the things that we can help our clients with their skin and their nails as we're performing our services. We are going to talk about diabetic foot care services and some of the recommendations and how we can get our clients involved in being a little more accountable for their home care routine. As I said, November is National Diabetes Month. Their slogan is "Take charge of tomorrow, preventing diabetes health problems." And this year's focus is taking action to prevent diabetic health problems. Diabetes affects every system in our body. We literally have sugar in our bloodstream. That's what diabetes means, sweetened blood as it travels through our bloodstreams. And it affects every system in our body and every cell in our body. So we need to be aware of the health problems that diabetes actually brings to our diabetic lifestyle. The National Institute of Diabetes and the Kidney Foundation use this month to annually boost awareness about the risk factors, what it's like to cope with diabetes, and provide ways to manage it. This is quite a conundrum. As I look at some of these, I notice glucose, meaning that's a big thing. Diabetes, big thing. Complications, big thing. Weight, monitor. Pancreas, hyperglycemia. It means elevated blood sugars. Ketoacidosis, sugar. Adults, insulin. Respond, complications, pancreas, mellitus, islets. We'll talk about those in a little bit. It's all invasive and all involved with all of these things to manage diabetes. Diabetes mellitus is the terminology the medical profession uses, or DM for short if we're doing our little shorthand in our charting. Diabetes actually means to a siphon or to flow through. Mellitus means honey-like or sweet. It is a serious lifelong chronic disease. It means your blood sugar levels or your glucose levels are elevated in your bloodstream. Blood sugar, we need blood sugar. It's for energy and things like that. However, we have normal levels, and it's controlled by the hormone called insulin. That hormone's produced by the pancreas. We saw that little term islets or inlets a few moments ago, and I kind of pointed that out. In the pancreas, what produces the hormone insulin is called the islets of Langerhans. So they're little beta cells that actually produce this insulin so we can actually metabolize the sugar. Diabetes causes glucose not to be moved into the cells or to be stored and used for energy due to either the pancreas is not producing that insulin or that hormone, or the cells can't respond to the insulin. So I think of insulin as a key. So either my pancreas is not producing enough keys to open all the doors to the cells, or the cells have just locked up and they're not going to let the key work. So think of insulin as a key. So they call that insulin resistant, when the cells will no longer accept the insulin to metabolize and use the sugar, or it can be a combination of both. There are three types that we think of when we think about diabetes. Type 1, It's juvenile diabetes. It's early onset, insulin dependent. These children are screened early in life because of behavioral changes, things like that, and they will always be insulin dependent diabetics. There's type 2. That's who we usually see in our demographics. We see the older adults, mature onset. They're not insulin dependent. And then there's gestational, high blood sugars during pregnancy. Let's explore these just a little bit more and talk about some of the risk factors that we have. There's also non-classified types of diabetes. LADA, that's latent autoimmune diabetes in adults. It's a variant, type 1. They were juvenile diabetic, but didn't realize it until later in life. Then there's MODY, maturity onset diabetes of the young. I think this is a travesty. Absolutely, we have type 2 diabetics in childhood. Then there's neonatal. It's very rare and is usually diagnosed within the first 6 months of life. And then there's steroid induced. Some folks use steroids because they have autoimmune disease such as asthma, lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, Crohn's, ulcerative colitis. They need those to keep those diseases or disorders within control, and that steroid causes diabetes. And then we also have pre-diabetes. We used to call it borderline. Some of you know that I was a nurse before I became a nail technician. I worked for over 30 years in interventional vascular, open heart, diabetics, wound care. And so I feel that going to the nail tech side and pedicure side, that this is so important for us to know what to look for and what to do and how to best help our diabetic clients when we're doing foot care services. Type 1. It always appears in childhood or adolescence. However, I said there's a latent determination. They found they were actually diabetic, but didn't realize they had the symptoms, but nobody ever put it together that they were actually diabetic, type 1. It is an autoimmune disease. The pancreas doesn't develop well enough to actually produce any or little insulin, so it doesn't metabolize that glucose. There's no cure. Treatments directed at managing blood glucose levels through diet and lifestyle, because we don't want those complications. In diabetes, you don't die from diabetes. You usually die from a complication, which is very, very sad. Symptoms include excessive thirst, frequent urination, irritability, fatigue, vision changes, excessive hunger, unexplained weight loss. Wait a minute, they're eating more, but we're losing weight. A lot of these children actually have behavior changes or mood swings, and they're thought to have ADHD, and they're sent to the physicians to see if they need medication. So they help focus and slow down, and they find that the Ritalin or whatever they put them on doesn't usually help, and they go back for more testing and they find out they're diabetic. Type 2. This is us lucky folks over the age of 45. However, I did say that we now are diagnosing children with maturity onset diabetes of the young. It is when the blood glucose is not regulated by insulin, that hormone. So we're either not producing enough or the cells have become insulin resistant. The key is not working. It's the most common form of diabetes. Risk factors are pre-diabetic. We're overweight, over the age of 45. We've had a parent or sibling with type 2 diabetes. Everybody says it's hereditary. It's hereditary. There is not a diabetic gene. So you can't pass it on from one generation to the next. It's usually lifestyle. Mom made the best sugar cookies, and we all had sugar cookies every other day and that was a lifestyle. and we didn't exercise, we didn't use that extra energy from all those sugar cookies and things like that. And I don't mean to make sugar the bad guy, because carbohydrates are also broken down as glucose in our bloodstream. We're not active. When I teach my classes, I would say it's a travesty. We have to pay to go to the gym instead of walking and getting exercise 3 times a week. If you've had gestational diabetes or given birth to a child that weighs over 9 pounds, you are predisposed or at risk for diabetes. So these are some of the symptoms: obesity, increased thirst, frequent urination, blurred vision, tired, fatigued, wounds that take a little longer to heal. They're not healing as well as we would expect them to. Increased urination, increased hunger, neuropathy, that tingling, that numbness. I found it interesting. Areas of darkened skin, usually under the arms or around the neck, can mean you are predisposed to type 2 diabetes. And gestational diabetes, only during your pregnancy. So it's a female disease. It's usually asymptomatic. It appears between the 24th and 28 weeks of gestation. And we've all had gestational diabetic testing. We go in and drink the little sugar thing and they take blood sugars. And that's how it's determined. It's becoming more and more frequent. My daughter told me that she had 9 friends due about the same time she was expecting. 7 out of the 9 were gestational diabetic. The risk factors are birth weights are usually increased. You have larger babies. 50% of gestational diabetics. So if you've had gestational diabetes, you will probably develop type 2 diabetes later in life, usually within 5 years. So let's talk about pre-diabetics. We used to call them borderline. Very high risk for developing type 2 diabetes. It means your blood sugar or your blood glucose levels are elevated. Very often asymptomatic. Diabetes is sneaky. You usually don't get diagnosed until there's a complication, such as urinary tract infections, something's not healing well, you notice some changes in your eyesight, things like that. Management is focused on lifestyle changes. You've got to change what you're doing or things aren't going to get better. You have to lose that excess weight, maintain a healthy diet. In the US, the standard American diet is called the SAD diet. We eat so nutritionally poor, high fat, high cholesterol, high carbohydrate, and high sugar. We don't exercise regularly. You need to avoid tobacco products, and you got to keep that blood pressure and that cholesterol within normal limits. So some of you are wondering, what's a normal blood sugar? So normal blood sugar would be 100, below 100. Usually 60 to 80 is a normal fasting blood sugar. If you're pre-diabetic, anything above 110, and if you cross the line of 126, 120, you're considered diabetic. Now, they also do other tests. This is 2 hours after you eat. So your blood sugar should go over 140 2 hours after you eat and then come back down. If you go over 200, you'll notice it's in the diabetes range. There's also a test called the A1C. An A1C measures the glucose that's attached to the hemoglobin on the red blood cells. It measures for 120 days. Now, why is it so specific for 120 days? That's the lifespan of a red blood cell. So for 120 days, they can measure what your blood sugar has been. So they like to see it within, if you're normal, below 5.7. If you're pre-diabetic, it's in the range of about 6. If you are diabetic and it's followed that trend for the last 3 months, you're diagnosed at 6.5, you're diagnosed as diabetic. Let's talk about some statistics. This is an epidemic. Global statistics for 2021. It takes a while to gather all this information, and people, take a while. This is from the International Diabetic Foundation. 540 million of us are diagnosed as diabetic globally. That's 1 person in 10. 6.7 million deaths are directly attributed to diabetes. That's 1 every 5 seconds. So count to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's scary numbers. 10.5% of the world's population is diagnosed as a diabetic. However, 318 million of us are pre-diabetic. That's 6.7 of the adult population. When I first started teaching, I used the projections of 2024. That's next year. And the numbers were going to exceed the numbers that they had put out, because they said in the US, 224 million of us would be diabetic. We're way past that at this point. So we're going to exceed those numbers. So the new projections are out for 2045. 783 million adults will be diagnosed as diabetic. That's almost a 50% increase in diabetics. 414 million of us will be pre-diabetic. Scary, scary, scary numbers. So why? Why are these numbers increasing? We're growing. Urbanization. Everybody's getting a Starbucks. Everybody's getting a McDonald's. Everybody wants to supersize everything. We are literally, the world's becoming more focused on being the leading country and being hip and having our Starbucks every morning and our sweet iced teas, I have to say, in the afternoons. We're growing older. We're aging. We don't exercise. We don't do physical labor anymore like we used to. Most of us sit behind a desk with a computer. We're getting happier. We're getting a little more padding around the middle section. Diabetes is the 8th leading cause of death in the world. Again, these statistics are from the International Diabetic Foundation. So, North America, this includes Canada. I said when I first started teaching, 2016, the number was 24 million. It's 2023. That's less than 7 years. 37.3 Americans. That's 11% of our population is diagnosed diabetes. Oh, I was telling Jennifer just a little while ago, diabetes is near and dear to my heart. When I first became an educator for Footlogix, I was picked up at the airport by one of our beloved persons, and she said, I hear you're teaching tomorrow. I taught diabetic feet the first time I did an education course. Good thing I kind of understood a little bit what I was talking about and things, but now it's come full circle. So thank you, Footlogix. And again, Americans 65 or older have a higher percentage of developing diabetes. 1.4 million Americans are diagnosed with diabetes every year. 96 million Americans over the age of 18 are pre-diabetic. Again, lifestyle and diet, our sad diet. It's the 6th leading cause of death in use, and it contributes to another top 2. Global. So who has most diabetics per population? China. They have a large population. But again, urbanization. They're getting more and more of our fast food restaurants. Their jobs, again, are not as demanding physically. Second is India. And the US, we come in third. It is not contagious. You cannot catch diabetes. It's not communicable. So is eating too much sugar going to cause diabetes? No, that's false. It's because you're not metabolizing the carbohydrates. You're not using the energy. That insulin's not opening those cells to open those cells so we can use that energy or to store it. So people with diabetes shouldn't exercise? No, you should exercise. You should find an exercise plan, find a personal trainer, talk to your doctor, find out what you should be doing to control your diabetes, because it's controlling and managing. Once you've become diabetic, I've had people say, well, I'm not diabetic anymore. You're one blood sugar away from becoming diabetic, from not maintaining a healthy lifestyle, from not managing your diet and managing your exercise programs. Can you catch diabetes from another person? No, not at all. Can children with diabetes, can they never have sugar? They can have sweets. They just need to moderate and watch their blood sugars. Most of our juvenile diabetics, we have wondrous things called insulin pumps that actually measures their blood sugar constantly and delivers the insulin they need in seconds, because their need and their variation of blood sugar varies so greatly. Let's talk a little bit about neuropathy. This we see in our profession quite a bit, because our clients will come in and say, well, I can't feel my feet, or they feel like pins and needles. That's neuropathy. Long-term, it's debilitating. It can cause serious and life-threatening complications. Over time, those high blood sugars levels damage the small vessels, the capillary bed, and then it's not able to get the nutrients and the oxygen to the nerves. So they're not getting that exchange at the capillary level, which also manages our blood pressure, but it's not able to form those capillary pathways, because we make new capillary pathways all the time, but a diabetic doesn't, because they're elevated blood sugar levels. So since the nutrients, the oxygen's not able to travel through the capillaries and then onto the nerve cells, the nerve fibers become damaged and they're not working. And it's not able to relay those nerve impulses to the brain. So some of those symptoms are, you're going to feel tingling. Your clients will say, it feels like pins and needles. They can't feel pain. They can't feel temperature changes. They can't feel with their feet. They don't feel that there's a curb, or they've stepped on a tack, or there's a golf ball in their shoe. I've seen these things. They can't tell there's an ulcer on their foot. They don't feel burning. They don't feel the shooting pains. They have a high risk to develop Charcot's foot. Charcot's foot means there's not enough adequate blood flow to the ligaments and the tendons and the muscles of the foot, allowing the bones to misalign. And you'll see some of these deformities in some of your clients. They come in and they're overstepping on the instep or the medial arch, because those bones aren't able to maintain, first of all, the biomechanics, and allows those bones to splay. Amputation, primary complication of diabetes. Globally, it's estimated that a limb is amputated every 30 seconds. 85 of these amputations are directly caused, and as I say, not due to, they are caused by diabetic foot ulcers. Diabetic neuropathy and PAD, that's peripheral arterial disease. We've talked about a little bit about those capillaries not able to get the blood flow to those nerves and things like that. That's what peripheral arterial or peripheral vascular disease. Not enough adequate blood flow. It's directly correlated to neuropathy. This is tragic. It's the tragic rule of 50. We use it in the medical field. Over 50% of all lower limb amputations begin with a diabetic foot ulcer. 50% of those amputees will have the opposite leg amputated within 2 years of the first amputation. So they're a bilateral amputee. 50% of those bilateral amputees will die within 5 years after having above the knee or below the knee amputations. It's tragic. 5 years after an amputation. So what's that mean as a pedicurist, as a nail technician? Our diabetics need us. Long gone is the days they could actually run into the doctors, the podiatrist, and get their toenails trimmed, somebody to quickly look at their feet. We're much more accessible. We're much more affordable. And I think sometimes we're a little bit more less rushed. Our doctor gives you 15 minutes. And how many times have you been in with your adult parents or someone, and did they take their shoes and socks off when they looked at did a full assessment? No. They'll look at a blood sugar. They'll look at lab tests, but do they really look at the skin surface? Not as much. So our diabetics, for every client, you need to do a foot care consultation. I just happen to have the Footlogix ones right here. It makes it kind of easy. And my first question is, are you diabetic? Ask every time, because things change, right? Well, I didn't go to the doctor till last month, and I've now seen you after that. So ask every time. And then do a thorough skin, and I'll say that again, skin analysis. Is it thin? Is it dry? Do you see vessels? Is it cold? Is it pink? Is it dusky? Is there tinea? Is there onychomycosis? So many things. Is it thin? Is there hair growth? So many things to look at when you're looking at that skin of all our clients, because some of these things actually you can tell if they're diabetic or not. And then customize that pedicure according to your client's consultation. Every pedicure should be customized. So your client's telling you what's wrong along with the Footlogix consultation sheet, and then you can go right from there to help them best serve their needs for their pedicure appointment. You need to choose products that are pH balanced. And when I say balanced, it should be a 7 or neutral. Our skin is 4.5 to 5.5. That's a protective layer. It's called the acid mantle. If we disturb that acid mantle, it takes us 24 hours to rebuild that acid mantle. A lot of our antibacterial soaps, they strip that acid mantle. So you have to find something, a cleanser or other products that are much more, what's the word I'd like to use? For diabetic safe. But again, trim the nails carefully. Trim straight across, don't leave any sharp edges. Never push back or cut cuticles. When I think of the cuticles, I know there's film laying on that nail plate. I want to remove that film, but there are better ways. We don't have to push back or lift that cuticle. It's a Tupperware seal. When you seal that down, it's keeping bacteria, viruses, any harmful funguses, anything away from the nail matrix or the nail root. You never want to pick that up. And you should always hydrate, moisturize. Urea-based products will help support the natural moisture factor of the skin. We should have 30% hydration in our skin. Grab a skin checker, a moisture checker. They're easily available on Amazon. 30%. Do it before you do your services. Show your client and tell them you should have 30%, and then check after application. Even if you're doing waterless services, if you're using a pH balanced urea-based product, you're going to have 30% moisture into that skin. So what kind of precautions should we be taking with a diabetic for our services? No oil-based lubricants. As a nurse, that was the first thing I was ever taught. Diabetes 101. Never put lotion between the client's toes. Why? Skin transpires. It literally exchanges moisture between the environment through the air, and that would avoid or occlude the skin's natural ability. And it can also cause friction. So when you're rubbing the toes together, there's a little friction and it causes pressure ulcers. You don't want the foot to slide in the shoe as either. So avoid all oil-based lubricants. Find a moisturizer. If you're going to do water service, use tepid water. And when I say that, baby bath. And no, don't soak for any longer than 5 minutes. So why? We usually use water all the way through a pedicure. Well, we use it for entertainment value. The only reason to soak a foot is to clean it and to soften the toenails so we can clip them easier. If you soak a diabetic too long, their skin's so fragile, it will literally start to peel off. Use only diabetic safe products and implements. Nothing sharp, no cheese graters. No, I'm not a big proponent of abrasive files either. I like my callus softener and my Footlogix file for all of my clients, or a safety bit on my e-file. If a product has a pH that is going to burn your hands, or you need to be wearing gloves to apply it, shouldn't be applied to diabetic skin. I don't like to use it on anyone's skin because I don't know if they're pre-diabetic. How do some of us know? We don't, because of the high numbers of our pre-diabetes clients. So we have some products out there that's a 13. Oven cleaner is a pH of 13. So be very aware of your pH in your products. If you don't know the pH, you can't find it, call your distributor. They should have SDS sheets. We do at Best Foot Forward. Or call Footlogix, they'll help you out if you're using Footlogix. So let's talk about some solutions. Footlogix Pediceuticals. Why is it called a pediceutical? It is the world's only pediceutical. It offers transformational foot care with DIT or dermal infusion technology. It's called a pediceutical because it actually has medical properties in the mousses to help some of the issues that we're dealing with our clients' feet. I use this in the shower. I've used this on my 2-week-old grandson. I trust this product with my family. I mean, that says a lot when you trust a product with your family. So there's our DIT or dermal infusion. It doesn't moisturize or lay on the top of the epidermis. It literally travels down through 5 layers of the epidermis, moisturizing the lipid layer. That's the cement between all the skin cells. That's where the moisture and the hydration is stored. So it's moisturizing from the basal layer right on up to maintain that 30% moisture. Footlogix, unique selling propositions. These are things you should kind of know when you're talking about to your clients because they need these products to take home. One and done every 4 or 6 weeks is not enough. They need to be taking some retail home with them. So it's the world's first and only pediceutical foot care line. It's based on aesthetics. It's based on skincare. I'm a full specialist in Florida, so I have my nail and my aesthetics license, and I understand the importance of taking care of the skin of the feet. It's not occlusive. It doesn't contain any occlusive oils, so it doesn't seal the skin. It's fast absorbing. There's no greasy residue, and it has the revolutionary dermal infusion technology. There's a professional range. And here's our retail and our home care products. And we're getting more new ones coming soon. Watch for 2024. We have some exciting things coming soon. And there's our home care. I think every diabetic came to see me every 4 weeks. I work 6 days a week, 8 clients a day. Most of my clients were diabetic. And they saw me every 4 weeks, no questions asked. And we filled one of these out each time they came in. So they knew how to maintain their foot care routine. We all have facial routines. Why not a foot care routine? Because we customize that pedicure. They've told us from our consultation what product they need to work on first, or what they want to see in changes for their foot care. And you can tell by their consultation. So one of the things I always say is if they have a tinea or an onychomycosis, they need to follow up with the antifungal, antimicrobial products first. You've got to get rid of the fungus first before you can move on to anything else. They do offer some hydration, so you'll have some hydration. Or if you have serious problems such as a cracked or reggae, work with the peeling or the rough and the tinea first, and then they can also use the cracked heel in conjunction. So I'd use one in the morning one at night. And if you're also working with your clients with an antifungal, they need to treat their shows. So have them get the shoe spray as well. Does anybody know how often you should change your shoes? Every 6 months. So here's a little bit of a diabetic home care routine. Please commit this to memory, take a screenshot, whatever, make it your own. You can give this out to your diabetics. They'll say, oh, nobody's ever told me this. Why didn't my doctor tell me this? Doctors treat with medicine and they're given a diagnosis. So your diabetics should inspect their feet daily. If they can't get their foot up on their lap or have somebody look at the bottom of their foot, have them use a mirror. Put the mirror on the floor and have them look into the mirror with their foot over top the mirror. They need to bathe their feet daily. Cleanser, lukewarm water. Tell them not to soak their feet for any longer than 5 minutes. No Epsom salts. Epsom salts is drying. We don't want drying products. We need hydration. Cleanser. They need to thoroughly dry between their toes. They need to change their socks daily. And I suggest natural fiber, such as cotton wool, bamboo. I found bamboo. There's also diabetic socks that are supposed to help with the circulation. They should always shake out their shoes before they put them on. I've said golf ball earlier. I had a gentleman stop at the salon one afternoon, probably about 3:30 later in the day, and I picked his shoe, or took a shoe off his foot, and a golf ball rolled out. He said, I've been looking for that all day. He'd wore his shoe all day long and shoved his foot in that shoe with a golf ball at the end of the toe. No bathroom surgery. They should not be treating ingrown toenails, involuted toenails, calluses, corns by themselves at all. They should never go barefoot, even indoors. They need moisture. They need products that contain urea that are going to help with that hydration, that 30% hydration in their skin. So the benefits of Footlogix. Again, we're creating a point of differentiation, long-term results, state-of-the-art products. They're always working on what's coming next. And again, retail. Your clients need these products. Why should Walmart go up in the stock exchange? Things like that. You need to develop a system of retailing, and that's easily done with your consultation and your home care. You're making professional recommendations to help your clients. They're improving your condition. They're going to improve their quality of life, especially your diabetics. Like I said, I've had clients say, this all started from an ingrown toenail. They're going to lose a foot. And what I say about that tragic rule of 50, what's going to happen after that? Again, always be professional, learn more, be passionate, and strive for excellence. Footlogix online community, they are phenomenal. Use your hashtags, Footlogix professional, and they'll see it. They'll see what you're up to, and they like to share that as well. And on Instagram, at Footlogix. Professional videos and home care. So there's tutorials. Hop on youtube.com, Footlogix Petty. The webinar will be available in 48 hours. And I am going to ask or answer questions here in a little bit. So if you have any questions, pop them in the Q&A and we'll have a chance to offer those and answer those questions for you. And again, join that Footlogix community. If you're a retailer, they list your business so you can find out the web or the zip codes, and they'll put you on a finder. People are always looking for Footlogix. We gladly help for them to locate you. There's marketing material, posters, brochures, registered for webinars, trade shows, things like that. There's also a monthly newsletter. And again, education at footlogix.com. All because we want healthy, happy feet. And in closing, I just want to stress how important it is for your diabetics to receive the foot care that they need, and using products that they actually can count on, that's going to make a difference and change and hopefully make their foot care easier and developing a home care routine and being able to see a professional to actually see their feet on a regular basis. Thank you so much.